pleased to have the Ronald Reagan Building and International Trade Center serve as the home of this conference for the past 8 consecutive years. I've heard some Afghans say, "Our home is your home." With that said, I'd like to welcome newly engaged and returning officials from Afghan ministries, top leaders from U.S. and Afghan governments, as well as officers from esteemed public and private sector organizations who promote business-to-business relationships, investment, and trade between the U.S. and Afghanistan, and these are the bridges that build. This 10th anniversary is a key milestone. This conference symbolizes not only our support of the conference, the important sponsorship support of the conference, but all of your support of the conference. It also symbolizes the commitment between U.S. and Afghanistan and to each other. The ongoing message of this program has been building and furthering our economic partnerships, and you have some real success stories to show over the past 10 years. This year's theme of Afghanistan Looks to the Future is especially fitting as we mark this 10th milestone. Now, with the new president at the helm, new ideas, new leadership, we're certain continued efforts will be made in advancing a more transparent and predictable marketplace that will help further grow and sustain direct investment in Afghanistan, not only from U.S. firms, but from firms throughout the world. I'm certain throughout the next 2 days, expert insights, conversations, and exclusive networking sessions, as well as visits to the booths next door, will spark innovation and business solutions and deepen the partnership between our two nations. These core ideas and other themes such as innovation, entrepreneurship, and the importance of cultural diplomacy are the very core pillars on which this edifice was constructed by the executive and legislative branches of the U.S. government to be our nation's trade center in 1998. Being the first and only federal complex dedicated to both public and private sector use, our center also serves as the World Trade Center of Washington, D.C. We wish the Afghan-American Chamber of Commerce continued success and look forward to engaging sessions over the coming days that will help us meet our potential in navigating a growing business environment in the global marketplace. Now it is my pleasure to welcome Chairman Suleiman Lufti, President and CEO of TriVision, our newest tenant here in the Ronald Reagan Building and International Trade Center, a founding member and chairman of the board of the Afghan-American Chamber of Commerce. Thank you and enjoy the conference.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, good morning. As the chairman of the board for the Afghan-American Chamber of Commerce, on behalf of our board members, I would like to welcome and thank everyone for participating in our 10th anniversary annual U.S.-Afghanistan Business Matchmaking Conference. I'm delighted to see such a large turnout with many familiar faces despite the challenges we had in organizing this year's conference with a late start because of the delayed presidential elections and many other challenges we had. Especially, we are happy about the large participation from Afghanistan businesses. This level of interest and participation is a testament to the importance of investment, growth of the Afghan private sector, and abundance of opportunities in Afghanistan. In this critical time of transition, we are hopeful with a positive vision for the future of Afghanistan. We see the long-term future of Afghanistan as a regional hub connecting the countries of South and Central Asia, the role of private sector becoming even more important, and the Afghan businesses engaging more and more towards a market economy. The ultimate success in Afghanistan depends on the success and growth of the private sector. And a sustainable private sector is not possible without a long-term regional role for Afghanistan. This year's conference will include presentations by U.S. and Afghan businesses and government leaders. Panel discussions will be held on opportunities and challenges in critical sectors such as mining and natural resources. We will have agribusiness, information and communication technologies, construction infrastructure, and also energy and power. And in addition, this year we have a panel on women in the economy. How these sectors relate to the regional opportunities will be a topic we will discuss as well. We're also planning a follow-up conference with our conflicts partners in Dubai for the month of February which will be a follow-up to this conference, and also it will allow those who have not been able to participate from Afghanistan to this Washington conference or others from the region in Middle East and Afghanistan to participate in Dubai. So we look forward to have many of you in Dubai as well as a follow-up to this conference. I also wanted to take this opportunity to briefly talk about the Afghan-American Chamber of Commerce and what we have been doing for the past 12 years. The Afghan-American Chamber of Commerce was founded in 2002. It's a leading organization facilitating U.S. Afghanistan business investment and trade ties. AACC serves the interests of its members through its programs, advocates for a market economy in Afghanistan, and it strengthens U.S.-Afghanistan business and economic relations. AACC is a growing national organization bringing together companies, financial organizations, individuals with a stake in helping Afghanistan succeed in developing business opportunities and emerging economy. Some of you may ask, what is the benefit or result of these conferences, or is there any direct result or benefit for me or the attendants who participate in the last many years? And I myself can be, I can say that as a witness for being part of this organization from the beginning and seeing so many repeat sponsors and attendees, that these conferences, we try to facilitate and create a platform for businesses to meet government officials from US and Afghanistan, and also see opportunities and discuss challenges and connect with each other, or make an opportunity out of this. And this participation actually shows, and the repeat sponsors we have shows one of the key results of our conferences, that we enable businesses to connect and make some opportunity or come up with new opportunities or highlight these new opportunities and challenges. And that's one big benefit for these conferences. At this organization, I just wanted to mention, we're all volunteers, and we try to organize a professional conference to the best we can. So if there's any shortcomings, please forgive us. Our board members are here to help. We have some more volunteers up top, and myself and my colleagues are all available to help everyone for today's conference. We also have a headset for translation services. So for those of you who require Dari to English or vice versa translation, please help yourself to headsets available with direct translation for anyone needing a special translation. We hope that you find the information and the personal connections in this conference useful, and we look forward to seeing you in our future programs. We have an excellent lineup of presenters, panels, followed by our afternoon one-on-one sessions. And I'll be available with my colleagues to help anyone. Thank you again, and I'll be available for anything further. Thank you. Now I would like to introduce Honorable Don Ritter, President and CEO of the Afghan-American Chamber of Commerce, who's been a founding member of AACC and the Master of Ceremony for this conference. He is one of Americans who has been involved in Afghanistan for over 35 years and has been to Afghanistan for over 45 times or more. And he is someone who I know who knows about Afghanistan and has been involved with Afghanistan with more than anyone else. So without further to say, many of you already know him. I'd like to introduce Honorable Don Ritter to continue with the rest of our program and introduce our sister organizations.
Thank you, Suleiman, and it is a pleasure to be working with Chairman Lutfi over the years. We are personal friends as well as professional colleagues, and we both have an abiding faith in the Afghan people and the potential for the success of the Afghanistan project. And our focus, of course, is the Afghan economy, and getting even narrower, the success of individual businesses to provide the jobs and the economic stability, the food, the shelter, the clothing, and the future for children of Afghanistan. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our sister organizations. I wanted to make one other comment, and kind of continues what Suleiman was saying. This year is a challenging year. It is a critical year in the history of Afghanistan, in that you have witnessed the first democratic transition of a government in the history of Afghanistan. That is unique. It is also posed with potential challenge in that we need to form that coalition government fully and completely. And I'm convinced it's going to happen. I'm convinced that President Ashraf Ghani and the CEO Abdullah are, if nothing else, extremely patriotic Afghans. And I believe that the lag in forming this coalition government is not necessarily a bad thing. Why? I mean, people are expecting, where is the cabinet? You know, where is this minister? Where's that minister? How long is it going to take? I think, and I think the facts will eventually bear me out, I think that this coalition is being formed with great care. In other words, the immediate sponsors of the election and contributors and political allies who jumped all over individual ministries seeking jobs are not necessarily getting them. And that both Dr. Abdullah and President Ghani are seeking the best people for these jobs. And let's face it, ladies and gentlemen, the future of what you are doing, what we are doing, is so dependent on the quality, the competence, the dedication, and the non-corrupt nature of the ministries as they emerge, particularly for us, those ministries that deal with things economic. But in the end, everything is economic, as you all know. So now it gives me great pleasure to introduce our colleagues who we have worked with over the years, who have performed major partnership roles in producing this conference. And I'll start with the President and CEO of the Afghan Chamber of Commerce and Industries, my dear friend over many years, a colleague worker when we were together in the precursor to the modern AACCI project, Atikullah Nusrat. Atik, please come to the podium. Next, his deputy CEO, recently promoted to that position, but extremely important in the promotion of this conference because he was, for many years, the international director for AACCI, Kadir Bakman. I would like to introduce the chairman of the Dubai Afghan Business Council, Obaidullah Sadarkhel. Could you please come to the podium? Thank you, Obaid. We have worked with Obaid forever, I suppose, and he has been a great collaborator, and a number of you are here from the Dubai Afghan Business Council. I'd like to introduce the president and a colleague over the many years, also doing major business these days in Afghanistan, Saber Fermand. Please come to the table. You know, Canada is a wonderful collaborator with Afghanistan. They are serious partners with Afghanistan, and they have sacrificed mightily for Afghanistan. And we have collaborating businesses and sponsors from Canada. But the Canadian visa issue is more difficult than the American one. So we're talking about combining forces in future matchmaking conferences to bring the Canadian Afghan Business Council more more integrated with the work of the Afghan-American Chamber of Commerce. I would also like to introduce from the Embassy of Afghanistan our commercial attaché, Mubin Shah. And please stand, Mubin Jan. Okay. Also, I would like to announce that and I want to thank all of our colleagues here who have contributed so mightily. I didn't see Yassine, Naeem Yassine. Aha, please come. The president of the Afghanistan Builders Association and someone who has been a former board member of AACC at the beginning, and someone who is deeply engaged in this construction industry transition. As we know, many of the military contracts are drying up, withdrawing. There will still be quite a few, but the volume is much, much less. And we have a powerful construction industry in Afghanistan, and the needs of the country are enormous to rebuild. So it's going to be an era of transition for Naeem Yassine and his colleagues in the ABA. I want to welcome all our ABA members that are here today. We also have partners from the Afghanistan embassy as well. You can talk with. Can you please stand? There's been a change in the staff of the embassy recently, and I don't know everybody's name, but please stand, members of the Afghanistan embassy in Washington, D.C. All right. Yes, thank you very much. We work real close with the embassy. Ambassador Hakimi is a dear friend of mine, of Suleiman's, and of AACC, and it's important that the embassy and an organization like AACC have very close relationships, and we enjoy those relationships. Now, I'd like to go right away to let you know that there's been a change in the schedule that happened over the last 20 hours or so since the final printing of your agenda, and that is the distinguished Minister of Finance, now Acting Minister of Finance, also Economic Advisor to be, I believe, the head of this new Economic Security Council, Dr. Omar Zakhalwal, dear friend of AACC, personal friend of mine going back to the beginnings of the post-Taliban presence, is here to address this distinguished group. So without further ado, I would like to have our head table depart, and we'll have Dr. Zakhalwal come to the podium. So please, okay. And I will, Omar, Minister, Excellency, please come to the podium. Many of you know Dr. Omar Zakhalwal, the Minister of Finance for many years. Before that, he was president of ISA. Before that, he was working with our project to create the new Afghan Chamber of Commerce, independent of government, what we know today as ACCI. And we were working on a wonderful project where he developed a brilliant proposal to create a Bureau of Economic Research and Statistics. And we were about to deliver that proposal in New York and in Washington to donors and foundations. We all know that economic information and statistics about the Afghan economy and the different sectors of the economy is really important to investors who would approach these different sectors. And at that moment, he was selected by then President Karzai to replace Noor Dilawari as the president of ISA. So without further ado, I will introduce our dear friend, Omar Zakhalwal.
Thank you, Don. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Honorable Don Ritter. Friends, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to you all. Let me, at the very outset, thank the Afghan-American Chamber of Commerce for organizing these annual events on Afghanistan. Let me also thank them for inviting me to every one of them, but unfortunately, I couldn't make it to the previous events, and thankfully, this time I was in the neighborhood, and I was able to drop by and participate in this year's event after the historic London event that took place last week, and then I came to visit the family, and I was close by, so I couldn't miss this opportunity after so many invitations to be here at this AACC event. Even though I've been asked to talk about, again, the private sector in the regional economies and all that, I'd like to be a bit broader than that, and of course, we'll come to this specific topic as well. Here, these matchmaking events, annual events, definitely are about business opportunities in Afghanistan, introducing those to the potential business people who are interested in doing business in Afghanistan, providing opportunity, of course, for Afghan and non-Afghan business people interested in business in Afghanistan, an opportunity to get introduced and do joint work together. So those who are here, of course, are those who already are convinced that there are opportunities in Afghanistan in different areas. And therefore, I'll not dwell upon those, and I'll not repeat what you already know or what probably is already discussed or will be discussed. But for a business person, opportunity alone is not enough to take the ultimate step in and decide on investing or doing business in a country. Of course, the environment will have to be right. An environment at the top is security. Security that, of course, when it comes to Afghanistan, both security is not as good and the perception is even worse. And it's not just the overall security. Of course, it is the perceived future stability of the country that will also have to be viewed positively for an investor to make a positive decision. And then there's the personal security, and then there's the investment or business security, both against sabotage, protected from sabotage, as well as from political interference and all that, that a business person will have to be assured of. And on all these fronts, we're not doing that well, to be very honest. And then once the security aspect is done, there is the regulatory environment. That will have to be right. We made some progress, but we also have difficulties. And then there is the infrastructure environment. Of course, investments have been made. A lot of progress has happened, but lots of key infrastructure is still not there for businesses to benefit from. And then there's access to finance and insurance and all that. Some have, some don't. Most Afghan business people still struggle with accessing, again, accessing finance at an affordable rate. And as for all these reasons, there's the doing business indicators. We rank 183 out of 189 countries. So therefore, it's not a good business environment that we have. And I'm saying this because I want to be frank with you. We don't want to give you a picture that is not it. But despite this picture, what we say, there's still a case that could be made for doing business in Afghanistan. First, despite this picture, there are people on the ground who are doing business and who are doing well. And there are many examples in this room. For those who've not been to Afghanistan, certainly there could be, there's in the introduction all that, they've already talked about it. The second is that with these opportunities and there's being so low on the doing business indicator, there is enormous opportunity for improvement. And when we have, particularly in the new government, a resolve to create a better business environment, because economic agenda for the government is not only important for economics, but it's also important for security and stability, then and it has the right talk and the right approach to improving the environment, then that gives us enormous hope and an enormous optimism. Just last week, we had the London Conference on Afghanistan, and I was responsible for organizing that event and responsible for putting together the London paper. The London paper was called the Realizing Self-Reliance, Commitment to Renewed Partnership in Reform. That's what we presented, and that's what was endorsed by our international partners. And in this paper, if there was one area that was the focus of this whole approach to the new government's initiative, it was the environment for the private sector. If you look at the title of the paper, Self-Reliance, Moving Towards Self-Reliance, or Realizing Self-Reliance. Self-reliance in that paper, if you've read it, you would have realized it. If not, I encourage you to read it. That the thinking of the new government, the belief of the new government is that we cannot realize self-reliance. We cannot even move towards it without putting the private sector at the center, at the front, and at the whole, at the heart of the development and security agenda of the government. We cannot do it. And we have no options but to move towards self-reliance as well, because we know that we have a country to run and that we cannot rely indefinitely on foreign assistance. The foreign assistance has come down and will be coming down further. So we'll need to move forward. We need to collect taxes. We need to have revenue. And that's not possible without private sector development. Renewed partnership, again, commitment to renewed partnership. It's a partnership not only with the international partners, but also a partnership with the business community. And I'll come to explain that. And then a renewed partnership for reform. And again, if you look at the reform agenda, it's private sector written all over it, because it's the reform agenda for the private sector that actually produces the bottom line for the government. But even the renewed partnership with the international partners, there's private sector written all over it. What is that renewed partnership? Again, as presented by our president, Dr. Ashraf Ghani, we would want to transform our relationship from an aid in recipient, or for a donors in recipient relationship with our international partners, to a relationship that is more and more based on trade and investment between us and our donors. We would want to use donors' money to help moving us towards self-reliance. And that is to use its money to create the right environment for private investment and private business in the country. What President Ghani asked our international partners, if you followed, is that we would want more important than the aid from our international partners is to open up their markets to us. We have production, we can produce more, and then help that production within the country of ours to meet up the standards and get connected to these markets. So that's what we need help with. And that's the money that's more sustainable, that's the money that we would have earned, that's the money that will continue to come to the country, will continue to strengthen our economy, will continue to generate money and revenue for the government. We also have asked our international partners to provide better credit and also insurance to the businesses in Afghanistan, particularly, first and foremost, of their own nationals who are interested, to encourage investment through providing finance and insurance. And again, the executioner of both relationships would be the private sector. If it's a relationship that we want to develop it, expanding trade relationship, particularly with exports to these countries, it will be the private sector who would execute it. If it is, again, businesses that will come to, or investments that will come to, it will have to be the private sector that will execute it. So the executioner, so the private sector is not only a recipient of the reform agenda or the development agenda, it's a principal participant in that agenda. It's an agent of change. It's an agent of delivering the reform and delivering the agenda of the government. And lastly, again, one of the most important agendas within the London conference was the regional economic integration. A sustainable Afghan economy requires that we are further integrated within the region. And it is that regional connectivity, regional economic interdependence that will ensure a sustainable economic development within the country. And that will not only help us, but will also help the regions as well. We had a one-night discussion on that, a separate event, with our regional countries, neighbors, further regions such as Saudi, Emirates, Turkey, Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, but also important allies such as the US, Japan, Germany, European Union, World Bank, ADB, IDB, and their very robust and practical agenda, connecting the two countries, the Afghanistan, further into the regional economies, by trade, transit, and investments, cross-border businesses, and all that. And asking our international partners to help with the regional agenda, which again is as much important for security and stability as it is for economic development and trade and commerce between these regions. And again, who would have to be the executioner of that agenda? It will have to be the private sector. Without private sector, we cannot realize it. And it's for that importance of the private sector that within the new government, the approach to deal with the private sector is now different. Before we had within the presidential palace, again, the next most important body there was the National Security Council. Now, parallel to National Security Council, we now have the National Economic Council. We had the National Security Advisor. Parallel to that, we have the National Economic Advisor's Office. And this provides an opportunity for the president himself to be involved, again, with specific investment cases that needs special attention, that needs special encouragement. It provides an opportunity for the president himself to be involved through this office directly with the business community to hear them out as to what they need from the government to be provided so that their life become easier, that their environment is friendlier, and provide that advice to them. In fact, to be even sitting on the National Economic Council and not only bring reports, but also be a decision maker there on this council. It will provide, again, an opportunity for the president to receive advice on the economy, on the development, from those who are practically in it, who know the economy better than any body within the government, because they are in it. They are the recipient of the environment. They are the people who move things around. They are the ones who know where trade works and where it doesn't, where investment is easier, where it isn't, where there are obstacles, where there aren't. So it provides that opportunity. So with that type of approach and with that type of a focus, the private sector and the private investment definitely receive the type of attention that wasn't there before. And therefore, it brings me back to the first point that I made, that yes, the environment right now is certainly not a very conducive one, but with the new approach, with the new focus, with the new agenda, with the new specifics that we have, I'm confident that by next year this time, if I do participate, and I hope I do, in your event, we could report to you that on the doing business indicator, we've gone down from 183, let's say at least to 150 or something, 140. That would be a significant jump or drop, whatever way you put it. And I'm pretty confident that we will be able to do it. I think we have a very focused approach. We now, out of London, we got a very active agenda. We got the support, the needed support that we needed, both political and hopefully will also be matched by financial. We have the support of the World Bank and the IFC, members might be here, to get their professional advice and support on improving on the doing business indicators. We have the bilateral support of countries such as the US, UK, again, European Union, and other important allies within the region. China, for example, is significantly interested not only in encouraging its own citizens to come and invest, but also provide credit for investment in the country, provide credit for infrastructure and all that. And therefore, we are quite very optimistic that we will definitely have a different environment for businesses to operate in the country. And I do thank everybody who is already involved, and do encourage them to come in and look into the possibilities. But not only that, come in and with the new approach that there is within the government, debate with us as to how, advise us as to how we could create, again, a furtherly improved environment for you. It's going to take time, no doubt, but if next year is better than this year, and 2 years down the road is better than next year, then certainly we are on the right track, and certainly we should be assured that sooner than later we will have an economy that indeed practically will be private sector driven, in which the private economy and the private investment, not in slogan, but in reality, will be the engines of economic growth, sustainability, and revenue generation. Once again, thank you for having me here.
Thank you, Dr. Zakhawal. And before you arrived, I made the comment that the delay in appointing ministers was probably a good sign, in that President Ghani and CEO Abdullah were not just responding to the pressures of politics and who supported whom and how much in the campaigns, but were looking for the best people, and that was something that took time. And I wanted to get your response on that. Please come back to the podium. Yeah. People are asking where.
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, that's exactly right. I mean, the response from President Ghani, and I will quote him, it may not be the exact quote. He said he'd rather get the cabinet late and right rather than get it earlier and make a mistake. And I think that's what it is. But having said that, you can expect a full cabinet by the end of this month.
That's good.
Yes.
Good. Thank you. Well, Dr. Zaghawal, thank you very, very much for coming. Dr. Zaghawal, you may be so engaged in the present that you have forgotten a previous presentation at one of our 10 previous events of this kind, where you keynoted. Plus, you were a keynote speaker to the event Afghanistan as Hub.
Yes, I was, yeah.
The role of transportation, logistics, and critical infrastructure. AACC is focused on this idea of Afghanistan as hub. You know, it's landlocked. That's bad. It's in the middle of things. That's good. And the trick is to take advantage of the good side. It's in the middle of transport and logistics, to be sure. It's in the middle of power transmission, to be sure. Energy transmission, to be sure. And I want to just say one thing, that no one has a better handle on the need for regional integration of Afghanistan, particularly the Afghan economy, which will drive stability, than our guest, His Excellency Omar Zaghawal. And I think we're fortunate to have that kind of intellectual horsepower, substantive horsepower around the president to make that vision of regional economic integration a reality. So thank you very much, and we will release you to your further schedule today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, my brother. Yeah, thank you.
I believe we can now have our agriculture panel come to the dais. I wanted to mention there's been a number of changes in the schedule today. For example, Congressman Ed Royce, who was to be a speaker in and around lunchtime, has had his hearings extended. He's the chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, and he will be coming towards about 3:30. His hearings were extended, and he actually canceled, but we got him to please come and address us. Very, very important ally of Afghanistan in the future, in that he is wired to his Afghan-American community in Orange County and that area in Southern California, and he knows about Afghanistan. He studied Afghanistan, and he is a great ally. So please, I want you to make sure that you are here when Chairman Royce speaks to the group at 3:30 today. Also, the keynote address that Dr. Zaghawal has substituted for, which was to launch the day, Miguel Valero from Canarail is a fascinating speech, and speaks not only to the need for rail transport in Afghanistan if minerals and mines and heavy things are to be dealt with, and also eventually passenger traffic, and if the vision of regional integration is to be realized, rail transport is extremely important to Afghanistan. And he's going to talk about this 400-mile, I guess 600-kilometer link between Turkmenistan and Tajikistan, and connecting with the Hayretan Mazar spur. So you want to make sure you're here for that. And without further ado, let's have the agriculture panel come to the dais. I also wanted to mention one other thing. We have one-on-one meetings with our panelists and speakers, and Ed Corcoran, who has done this for a number of years, some of you know him, is handling this one-on-one for AACC, And it's a very good way to network in that you can personally meet with key people who are on our panels. And if you sign up, Ed is over on that side of the room. He can take your name and set you up with the different panels. Our great colleague, Atikula Nusrat, would like to address the meeting with a few words, and we are delighted to offer him that opportunity. Please, Atik.
Thank you very much, Don. Distinguished US and Afghan private sector members, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to all of you. John, it was a great pleasure for me working with you during the last 10 years and having some contributions to these matchmaking conferences. It has been, I have enjoyed it a lot. Thank you for the compliments you have done. Exactly, of course. We were very hardly working together to develop the Afghanistan International Chamber of Commerce back in 2004. It has been 10 years, so, and I have been a colleague of the Chamber since 2004. First of all, I would like to thank Afghan-American Chamber of Commerce and all who have contributed to the success of the series of matchmaking conferences during the last 10 years. I also congratulate the 10th anniversary of this conference and appreciate the continual efforts made for introducing the business of potentials and investment opportunities between the two nations. It's true that Afghanistan grew a wartime contract economy during the last 13 years, and therefore the transition is and will continue to be particularly risky and challenging, but that was not the whole story of the Afghan economy. We have also planted the seeds of a healthy, market-based, and viable economy that should grow up and replace the current mainstream economy, fed by the money that comes from donor-funded contracts, poppy, and terrorism. No doubt, matchmaking conferences played significant role in planting those seeds and helped us to create joint ventures, attract foreign investments, find business partners, buy machineries, and acquire expertise and modern technologies. There are many success stories in investment, exchange of knowledge, and expertise that are achieved through the matchmaking conferences between Afghan and American business people. But I believe we could do more and suggest that this is the right time to discuss on how to encourage the US private sector to invest and contribute in utilizing Afghan mineral resources, building infrastructures, producing energy, and modernizing agriculture, and get benefited from the new opportunities came up with the establishment of the National Unity Government. Dear friends, applying reforms and improving the business environment are the two major prerequisites for attracting foreign investment. Therefore, in London conference, ACCI presented the private sector recommendations on top priority reforms in order to stimulate inclusive and sustainable growth fueled by the domestic and foreign investments. Luckily, it was warmly welcomed and acknowledged by the government and the international community. Soon there will be a specific commission consisting of members from the private sector and Afghan government to work on the implementation of the private sector recommendations and priorities. We fortunately see a strong political will within the National Unity Government to address the concerns of the private sector. Commitments and the efforts His Excellency President Ghani and his government has made during the last 2 months have sparkled optimism and hopes across the country. And the private sector is enthusiastically looking forward to see more practical steps in materializing the promises made by the government. There is a real hope that our government, within the support of international community, will take specific actions to establish a consistent regulatory framework and improve the country's doing business indicators, as Dr. Zakhalwal touched base on. Dear entrepreneurs, The Afghan market is open to everyone who wishes to invest, but for practical reasons, we prefer to attract investors from developed nations like United States, who will also bring the most updated knowledge and technologies. Therefore, we are looking forward to see you investing in Afghanistan and support us to tackle poverty, unemployment, lack of proper infrastructure and services, which are the major contributors to ongoing security problems. Look forward for a fruitful conference with further and enhanced discussions among the Afghan and American private sector in next 2 days. In the end, I would like to mention that ACCI has published a directory consisting of detailed opportunities sector-wise on investment opportunities on Afghanistan, and as well as the details of the participants who are here participating today from Afghanistan. Thank you very much. Wish you all the best and wish you a fruitful conference ahead. Thank you.
Yes, we so value our partnership with ACCI and ABA and Dubai Afghan Business Council and the Canadian Afghan Business Council. It's so valuable for us to work together personally as well as professionally. And now we can go on to our next panel, our first panel, which is the agriculture panel. So please come to the dais, agriculture panel participants.